evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the town board meeting for May 22nd, 2024 at roughly 6:30 p.m. As always, we are virtual and remote. We are here in person. We have a Zoom that's running through our owls here. We're also streaming to Facebook, YouTube, and to our own website. Instructions to join us via Zoom and participate in the meeting are available at the top of each of our agendas. With that, I would ask Councilor Nicholson to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, we have a swearing in for our newest police officer. Chief, would you like to take it away?
Thank you, Mr. Town Supervisor, our town board members. It's my pleasure to introduce our newest member of the Town of Manlius Police Department. And with that, as you know, we have extremely high standards and great expectations for the servants of the public in our jurisdiction. And a very involved and particular selection process that looks for all of those fundamental qualities that will bring us someone that understands service with integrity that exceeds the expectations of our community. And I'm really excited to introduce to you our newest member, Jared Luzak. Jared, if you want to come up really quick. Just want to tell you a little bit about this young man. Jared grew up in Rome, New York, graduated high school, Rome Free Academy, right? We played them a lot in football, usually beat me. And attended MDCC, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. In August of 2017, he was hired by the City of Rome Police Department, attended the Mohawk Valley Police Academy, an excellent police academy where we send our personnel to many times. He's continued to work at the City of Rome Police Department since that time, and we're very excited that he's coming over to us with over 6 years of experience, and I am sure it's going to be a wonderful asset to our team. He'll be immediately pushed into field training, so he'll be out in the car. You'll see double car. We'll have 2 of those right now. We have Luke Rufo, who just graduated the academy from Monroe, and we'll have Jared in the car on field training. And what's also great about this young man is you can see it because of his family. And his parents, Eric and Kim, are here, and also girlfriend Megan here, over here, and brother Josh, and grandmothers. Please give away. So I'd just like to introduce you to him and just tell you that we're very excited to have him. And I know we're on to the swearing in.
All right, ready? Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Jared Luzak,
I, Jared Luzak,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We can take a few pictures.
Congratulations. Get some pictures with your family.
Yeah, well, yeah. You guys can stand there and take some pictures. You want to do one of both?
Excellent. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, we'll be back. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Next up, we have open podium. I have one person signed up, Craig Bunzak, LDC, Corey, etc.
I know you missed me.
I saw you yesterday.
I did, and I want to thank all of you who voted and those who came to my station, and I noticed some of you who avoided it, so you're not clear. Oh, just a moment. So I have several things, so much to say in so little time. I want to talk first about the LDC. I wasn't here for the hearing. I know you've closed it, but so it's appropriate for me to make it in open comments. I want you to remember Robert Moses. Robert Moses was the subject of a book by Robert Caro entitled The Power Broker, who was responsible for a lot of the development in New York State, but also was very responsible for destroying neighborhoods because he had the unbridled authority to do whatever the hell he pleased. And I have that in mind as I address LDCs. I'm not opposed as much as I'm skeptical because of its vagueness. So there's a philosophical question. The philosophical question is a question of ultimate accountability. When you do something, you get elected or unelected. It's not clear what happens to an unelected authority in terms of who it becomes responsible to. I know right now the Supreme Court, in a number of its recent rulings, has taken a principled position of rolling back some of the authority of various federal commissions. I suspect that will be down to various state authorities as well. Second has to do with the self-perpetuating nature of the authorities. Remember the New York State Thruway? It was going to be built, the bonds were to be paid off, and that was going to be it. It's still there. It's still raising fees. It's still raising toes. I know it's not an LDC per se, but the principle is the same. When you create such an authority, how do you kill the beast if you ever need to kill it? There's a political responsibility, accountability question. Again, I guess that's to be defined, how a member is selected, and especially how are they removed? Are they term limited? Fiscal accountability. I listened to the Harris Beach representative when he said, well, there's no debt ceiling on an LDC, and that should be bothersome to every taxpayer in the town. He says, well, what keeps an LDC from expanding its revolving loan fund? And he had, I guess I'd use the analogy to student loan debt. How do you ultimately get to an authority for whom you cannot reel in an obligation it's made and continues to increase that obligation? So who assumes that responsibility? The LDC issues bonds, who pays for that? Ultimately, it's the town taxpayers. He used the example of a contaminated site. And he said in that you weren't going to be liable. He didn't say anything about things that you're perhaps contemplating, like a recreation facility or a town hall or perhaps some other unnamed thing in the future. So the scope of authority, I think, needs to be clearly defined, and some scope of its authority needs to be limited. Board Commission. Last meeting, I heard Mr. Denton criticize the board, or actually I think really was criticizing the supervisor for the way in which he brought the proposal to you that created the commission, the reconstituted the Quarry Commission. And I think I agree with him in the sense that this could have been done in a more timely manner. You know that I've subsequently sent you information as to some of its history and growing. I hope you had a chance to read some of it. But I want to also make clear that the purpose of the commission is not limited to the specific neighborhood that gave it origin. So one of the things that is true in not just the discussion of this quarry, but perhaps the prospect of other future developments that may occur, is the absence of data. I mean, we claim about, well, there's air pollution. We claim about there are effects from vibration and the seismic effects. And one of the things this commission is creating is the ability to create and accumulate data that would say there is a problem, or it's not a problem, or where it occurs and how it occurs and when it occurs. It creates a location, a central location for residents to complain. And that's not limited to the neighborhood. It is a complaint vehicle for the town to register its concerns. And because it involves the town in a more direct way than its predecessor had, it also makes you immediately aware of issues that have to be addressed. Again, it informs your decisions going forward. not just in the current location, but for anything that might be contemplated in the future. And we take no position on what that should be. Finding on assessment, thank you for having read my letter. I'm sure you all stayed awake at night thinking about it. You saw in the paper last Sunday that the assessment in a number of towns were increased to full value. But surprisingly, almost 80% of the residences in the county weren't. And the concern that I think you as a board have to address ultimately is the assessor does the assessment, but you set the policies. Do you want to continue having annual full value assessments done when the rest of the county or much of the rest of the county isn't? Because that disadvantages us relative to other taxpayers. Yes, there is an equalization supposedly, but it lags. And it means that if the assessments here are always up to date, but others aren't, we end up digging deeper into our pockets than others do. So thank you for your indulgence.
If there's anyone in Zoom that's here to speak at open podium, please use the raise hand function. Otherwise, is anyone else here to speak at open podium?
Ron, I do have a comment.
Sure, if you'd like to read that.
This is a public comment that was received from Daniela Chobar. We, the residents of Manlius, are deeply concerned about the significant impact of the high assessments imposed by local government. These exorbitant assessments are placing an undue burden on our community, threatening the livelihoods of hardworking individuals and families. These high assessments are creating financial strain and insecurity for many of our fellow residents. Families are struggling to make ends meet, and small businesses are facing unprecedented challenges. The weight of these assessments is not only threatening the stability of our community, but also hindering its potential for growth and prosperity. Individually, many of us are facing substantial increases in property taxes and other associated costs, making it increasingly difficult to afford our homes and maintain our standard of living. This unjust burden disproportionately affects vulnerable groups such as the elderly and those on fixed incomes, pushing them to the brink of financial instability. We encourage the local government to reevaluate the assessment process and ensure that it is fair and just for all members of the community. Transparency, and accountability in the assessment procedures are crucial to restoring trust and equity. We call upon the authorities to engage in meaningful dialogue with the residents and consider alternative methods to alleviate the financial strain on our community. Market value of a property is different and separate from assessment value. One has to do with real estate sales and the other has to do with the improvements or lack thereof someone does to their home, which should not change year after year, especially by tens of thousands. The two are being confused unjustly here. Case in point, I personally also pay taxes on a home in Long Island, and this local government accurately and justly separates the market value from assessment value on their official notices to homeowners. As such, the assessment rarely goes up, and if it does, it's not by much. This Long Island town and its residents are very prosperous as a result of this fair system that the local government implements for the continued benefit of their community. Why can't Manlius take heed from their colleagues in other towns? It is imperative that our voices are heard and action is taken to address the pressing issue of high assessments. By signing this petition, we stand united in our demand for fair and reasonable assessments that allow our community to thrive. Together, we can bring about positive change and uphold the values of fairness and justice within our beloved village. In close, please find a list of 307 petition signatures in support of the above. And I do have a copy of the petitions if anybody wants to see it.
So next up, we have the unsafe building at 6602 Fremont Road.
Good afternoon, councilors. Yeah,
Yeah, we're there now.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and
Nicholson is
promote
on.
her.
Good evening.
Before we get into it, is there any updates you'd like to share with the board?
Yes, my client did put up a fence to secure the property, and we did send pictures to. I'm sorry, I don't know if are you the inspector or the property preservation person for the town?
I'm the code enforcement officer and I did receive the picture of the fence installed along
What
the
did that
property.
fence go up? Just in the last 2-3 days?
No, it was probably a week or so ago.
Yeah, just about.
Yes,
I
that's
had the
accurate.
exact
Is what it
date,
is.
'cause I conducted an inspection on the property when it was being installed. But that's in our database system.
Thank you for the update. So, do you want to kind of walk us through what we got in front of us, so everybody should have a copy of the 2 quotes that we were able to get in? Yeah, obviously, I think we all knew going into this was initially gonna be cheap. We do have one pretty fleshed out, complete quote. In addition, we have one that's a little more straightforward. And there's a price discrepancy between the 2. And so, based on the conversations we've been having at these meetings, wanted to give everybody a chance to quickly look at them. Again, this doesn't include anything that would be required after a thorough investigation of whether or not there's contamination. Once the EPA gets an opportunity to weigh in on the state of the basement and the fuel oil and the water that is still in the basement. So, obviously, depending on what that initial environmental survey looks like, there's gonna be additional costs. But we talked about this earlier, do you wanna just anything else?
So pursuant to the last board meeting, I sent out for getting 3 quotes for demolition of the structure. I put a request out, that had the certificate of liability insurance and workers' comp based on our insurance provider's recommendations. Those would be reviewed if the resolution is adopted. The project description was a single-family home structure, not including the detached garage, shall be demolished, removed, proper disposal and site restoration. But there's currently no access into the structure for bidding purposes, so you'll notice that they were not able to, and once the fence went up, go into the structure to review what was inside of it. I did tell the contractors that though most of the contents of the home had been removed for when they did the structural analysis of the building. And that is I can go into, we would like write a letter of condemnation so that the building would be able to be taken down as viable material. That's in accordance with industrial rule 56-11.5. And if a full environmental assessment, if required, if on the site, if it was deemed to be hazardous, and I put that there was a possible fuel oil tank in the basement and there was standing water in there. Again, I provided you guys with quotes as requested, and what I will do is make sure that the requirements set forth by New York State and the DEC, the Department of Health, and the EPA are met. Other than that, I can answer questions from as I've spoken to the contractors after they've submitted them, but that is what I have submitted to you.
Are there any salient differences between the 2 quotes in terms of what they're gonna do? Because obviously the pricing, it's like what, $20,000 difference, give or take? So it's pretty significant, but are they providing is the more expensive quote providing an additional service that,
I will, so one of the things is that we have to hire the air monitor for the sub. And we could, obtain recommendations from our town engineer if they do not have someone within their firm that could do the air monitoring. On page 4 of the Lions, you'll note that they did include the backfill of the site, without knowledge of how much would be required. That is left out on the K1 contracting.
That's the only concern.
There's very strict requirements for how this happens that they will have to follow, so the process for what is required for them to do to start is going to be the same.
and then, backfilling, it's not gonna cost $18,000, right?
We will have to see, I don't wanna say yes or no. I would assume depend on how the phase 1 assessment goes. Phase 1 assessment, just so everybody understands how that happens. Phase 1 is the preliminary site assessment. Phase 2 is subsurface contamination investigation. Phase 3, remediation and monitoring, and then phase 4 enclosure. So whether, how far outside the home, if there is possible contamination, they would have to dig and remove, and then if required, at this point, we're only speculating.
But did the Lions quote include, did they say like in our quote, we're including the backfilling, that's included in their pricing or no?
Based on this proposal, it has, slope clarification, line assumes bank rung fill to fill basement after pad and foundation have been removed.
So filling basement could be a lot of fill.
Yeah, I guess we're not comparing apples to apples here.
And then the one thing I did want to mention is the resolution being passed, the attorney, the draft does have a section there about allowing the person officer to do a little bit more research, possibly seek another quote and then make a determination based on things.
Yeah, so if I would like those recommendations from you, Tom, on what we should.
I want another quote.
Yeah, I like
One or
the-
two quotes, I
I
just
like
think
the three.
almost $70,000. Liability for the town.
Well,
Even 40, they just built one on Kirkville Road, Kirkville, and I'd like to know what they spent on building a brand new one, we're gonna pull one down for $70,000, it's just like, it feels irresponsible, unless we're gonna recover it.
So the county, so it'll be placed in the tax roll, and if it's not paid, by, I think, sometime in July, the county does make us whole, and then it is the town will be made whole. The
Yeah.
county will cover that.
As long as we're made whole.
yeah, well, like
It's
this,
a lot of money to pull down a house
yeah.
that somebody else's responsibility led to, and negligence led to.
And then the county will eventually be made whole, because that will, through taxation. Yeah, they pay for it eventually, the upfront cost.
It's not a cost that we bear, it's we're asking for the cost of it. And to be clear, we don't have to determine a quote, we don't have to make a decision. The resolution does allow, because of the emergency nature of this, it allows our business officer to determine which one is the best one, safest one, and move forward, to present the quotes that we had so far.
Will we at any point have to vote on which company we're contracting with?
No, if we pass the resolutions presented, we'll be fine.
Okay.
So who owns the land that we sold down?
Well, so
They
that,
own the land?
The bank will, right?
oh, yeah, I think that's a.
Oh, me? I lost internet during some of this, so I missed out on some of what was being said, so I apologize if this was already addressed, but when I was reviewing the two proposals that we received, I think Lions was better. Granted, yes, it's more money, but they broke out a lot of what they're doing, all of what they're doing, and it's a lot more detailed than what K1's was. So to me, I feel like that extra 20,000 roughly is worth it because they are doing a lot more than what K1 is. Like I said, that they're gonna put grass in for us. K1 said they're not gonna do that. So on and so forth for that. But I don't know if Tom had his recommendation or not. I couldn't hear.
I don't know, I'm not going to say that they will not do that, because we are requiring them I don't know why I'm looking back. It's that they did not put it into their quote, because they did not know the scale of what they would be doing for backfill and bringing that back to its original state.
And Alyssa, I don't know if you had fallen out for when I mentioned it, but the resolution is prepared. We're just looking at these quotes, getting an understanding, and then the resolution does give Tom the ability to, determine which one is gonna be best overall and move forward with that one. Whether that's obtaining another quote, whether that's asking for more details from K1, it'll give him the flexibility to make that decision.
Did they go inside town before they moved the,
No one went inside the structure.
so
They were only exterior surveys of the property for these quotes.
so they won't have to remove, they have the option to pull it down and water it while they're pulling it down, right, without having to.
Correct.
The expense of the asbestos is gonna be where they dump it after the fact.
Yes. The removal, I should clarify that, this building is being taken down as though it is completely asbestos because an asbestos survey is not being completed for the property. So they'll be taking this building down hot and disposing of it as though the whole building is asbestos.
Alright.
Tom, I think I heard you say that third-party air monitoring is something we still will have to get. Is that correct, what you said? Did I hear correctly?
Yes, they are not allowed to, the contractor is not an air monitoring company. We have to provide that.
Okay, and we don't have any quotes for that? Is that something we're gonna have to approve at another meeting?
That we may have to approve, because just looking at the resolution again. So we'll, once we have, figured out who we're gonna be having do the work, we will probably at the next meeting have to approve the third party air monitoring. And the plan is to reach out to the town engineer, Labella, and see if they offer the service or if they can recommend a company for that.
Okay, I know of a few companies if you need any names, Tom, but although I'm sure you probably know of some too.
So It says they are gonna do air monitoring, we need a separate air monitoring because of abatement laws. and-
They cannot do the air monitoring.
What the quote says is that they're gonna do it for their employees.
That's what I'm saying, so I just wanted this to be there for everybody's. That
They can't police their own work.
They understand they can't utilize that, just.
Check that out.
They can't police their own work, basically, is what it is.
Yeah,
Is why
same
they-
thing. Need a separate remediator.
So my question relates to the fence has been put up since our last meeting, and is that sufficient to ensure public safety, or do we need to move forward with the resolution? So I'm just raising the question.
Yeah, so, I don't know if everyone's seen the pictures, but basically it's a maybe 4 foot tall chain link fence.
6 feet, yeah.
6 feet. So it's, and based on the previous conversations, the understanding was, that a fence wasn't, a simple fence wasn't gonna be sufficient.
Okay, thanks.
What we're talking about here is an unsafe structure. The fence doesn't actually fix the unsafe, or the risks associated with the actual structure itself. So, the proceeding we're talking about, the proceeding we're engaging, the resolution, this is for an unsafe structure, and that fence does not remedy the unsafe structure.
I want to just ask this too, because the county makes us whole, they get to come in and build a brand new house and not have any of that cost on them.
No, they will be taxed by the county until the expense of
Who will be taxed?
the owner of the
Well,
property.
the question right now is the ownership is, I think, kind of in limbo. I know there's a foreclosure proceeding happening. So we don't know right now who is going to eventually pay for this.
The reality is it's gonna end up falling on my client. That's the reality. My client's Faye, they're the bank that's foreclosing. They're the ones that are gonna end up taking ownership and they're gonna end up having to pay the bill. That's the reality of how this plays out.
So, and really the only thing that could happen between now and when the demolition happens is if they were to go in and demolish it before us.
Right.
If we pass this resolution, that would be their way to not be subject to having to cover the cost as if they did it themselves.
because it's private, they could just go in and knock it down and get rid of it and not
They
have
still
to
need to
follow
have
all
a
their money or
They-
anything else.
They would need a demolition permit through the town from my office.
And so they would still have the same EPA requirements for testing and everything like that.
So that remains an option, whether we resolve.
Yeah.
They do or they don't.
They would, well, they could go through the process I've outlined here, removes the asbestos survey and abatement. They could go through with the asbestos abatement or asbestos survey, and whether it comes back as there is asbestos or not, they could remove it. If there isn't any, they could just take it down with normal procedures. But they would have to do an asbestos survey of the property.
What about the other testing for hazardous materials and such? They don't have to do that like we would, right?
It would be highly advantageous of them to do such.
Well, we're talking about corporations, if they don't wanna do it, they won't do it. They don't have to, we can't force them to, if they decide to
Well, I
go
would
and do it
imagine
themselves.
some type of violation.
No, if they, that's not town to tell.
I would have to further look into what the procedures would be. I mean, if there is contamination, I mean, if their contractor goes there, the liability would be on them for improper handling of material on the site if the water is contaminated. But if they were determined that there is no hazardous material on site and removed it with proper procedures, then they would be able to do such. But at that point, it would probably be myself on site with the contractor ensuring that compliance with all the regulations.
Alright, and we're highly likely talking about heating oil being the contaminant, more
Yeah.
than probably anything else.
Well, and it's also the question is the level of kind of leaching through or infiltration into the surrounding area. You know, if it's contained, then the process is fairly straightforward. If it has, infiltrated further than the foundation, then as Tom was saying before, it would require additional removal. So, and I think something to remember too is this resolution doesn't change the option that the bank has had this whole time with to demolish it on their own and go through the normal process. This is just kind of the culmination of I think we've been talking about this since last September, of those conversations that, we last time kind of informally said move forward, get some quotes, and now we have the resolution prepared to draft it. Any other questions? So, if there's no more conversation, we do have a motion there.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the removal and or demolition of dangerous or unsafe structure located at 66023 Mount Road, East Syracuse, New York, tax map number 045 -02 -06. Yeah, I could say.
Indeed. Okay. Any further discussion, any further questions? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
I
Thank you.
will.
I just have a quick question. Is this going to remain on the agenda for the town board meetings moving forward, or is this something that's now, the resolution's been passed and it's going to be completed?
Well, I think it's gonna fall under the purview of the codes department now, but, I mean, if you'd like to provide us with updates at any point in time, feel free. But unless we are approving a third-party error monitoring or some other piece of this process, I don't imagine this will continue to be on the agenda.
Understood. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
So for some.
Thank you.
If you guys like to come up to do the Enders Walk Sidewalk District presentation.
Good evening, I'm Monica Browning, and I am super excited to present to you tonight the Enders Road Sidewalk District. We've been working on this for, it feels like ever. I think it's been probably about a year. So we started in April of last year, when Elaine made the whole program to petition for sidewalks in Manlius. We held our first informational meeting at the Manlius Library. We had maybe 10 people there. All were in support of it. They wanted to know how they could help. After that, we went over the process with them, and then we kind of expanded on that. So they kind of went and talked to all their friends. We created a Facebook page. We found out in December that we could do an online petition, which was super helpful. We've had quite a few signatures on that. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we got quite a few signatures with the online petition, but we realized pretty quickly we had to start going door to door, which is my favorite thing to do, because no one ever. But I've met a lot of people, and it has been kind of fun. We posted lawn signs all up and down Enders Road. One of them immediately got taken down, but I noticed last week it was put back up. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but it went away and now it's back. We actually had a bunch of people donate money for the lawn signs. They were about $160. And then we had two members of our Facebook group also donate printed material so we could print off all of those flyers. We had an article in the Eagle, what is it called? Eagle Bulletin, yes. And then also in Stroll magazine. Stroll only goes out to a couple of the, actually, they're all kind of along Enders Road. It's Pompey Pines Reserve, Glen Eagle, Mallards. So that's where the Stroll magazine is distributed. And so far, even though Pompey Pines Reserve are not in the current proposed district, they are actually really in favor of it. And I've had more than a few people contact me wanting it to extend all the way down there because a lot of those kids walk as well. And also, the one off of 92, Brennan Fields. Brennan Fields Run also has had a lot of support. And actually, let's go to the next slide because there's a map. There's a map. Okay, so the blue on the map is what we proposed as the sidewalk district. The green is everybody in the surrounding area outside of the district that signed the petition. So as you can see, there's quite a few in Academy Hill up there, kind of to the top left of the blue section. All of those just below the blue section, that's all Brennan Fields, and then down here off of Pompey Center, the very bottom is the preserved Pompey Pines. So we've had overwhelming success with this. I would say out of everybody that I talked to face, like going door to door, when you can get them to answer the door, which is fun. There were maybe 7 houses total out of every one that we knocked on doors with that were like, no, I don't support that. Most of the vast majority of them were like, this should have been done 20 years ago. I don't know why this hasn't been done. One lady said that her daughter just graduated from high school last year, but she was actually clipped by a car on Enders Road, walking home a few years ago. A lot of them said that they had younger kids and they wouldn't let them walk to the schools on Enders Road because they felt that Enders was unsafe. And so they didn't want their kids walking to school because of the cars that go by there. A little background, I personally started this because I live in Glen Eagle, and I almost hit a kid. When I was coming from the high school, I was heading east on 173. I turned right onto Enders Road, and this was at like 9 o'clock at night after a football game. And there were two kids walking in black hoodies, like on the road, because there isn't anywhere else for them to walk. And they all the teenagers walk side by side. They don't know how to walk single file at all. And he was in the middle of the road. And I was like, okay, I couldn't see you because there's bushes right there on that intersection. And there is no place for them to walk. I almost hit him. I slammed on the brakes. I've also seen kids in the morning weaving between cars, and then when cars are turning off of 173 either direction, you either can't see them from the cars that are waiting to go onto 173 to get to the high school, you can't see them because of those bushes there. And when kids cut across the road to get to the west side of Enders Road to go to the high school, they cut between the cars, and you have a car coming around, and I've seen kids almost get hit that way too. So we're trying to be proactive on this and not reactive. We really don't want anybody to get hurt. This on the right here is one of the flyers that we had kind of passed out. Put a whole bunch of them in mailboxes until I realized we weren't supposed to do that. But I actually did most of the neighborhoods in one day, so a lot of them got that. And then we put them also at businesses around the area, people can scan. On the left there, that is all of the blue houses are the ones that have signed in the proposed sidewalk district already. So as we already said, the vast majority of people have been very, and they haven't just signed, like they've been very passionate about it. There really hasn't been anybody that hasn't, like that's been very passionate about it. I don't know. They haven't really opposed it. There was one person that lives on Enders, and he was like, I think all the kids should walk through the neighborhoods. And I was like, okay, but that doesn't happen. So we got to do something about it. He was like, yeah, but I've lived here for like 50 years, and I think they should all walk through the neighborhoods. But then I also see bikes almost crashing in the road in front of my house. And I was like, well, it would be nice to have a sidewalk for them to crash on instead of the middle of the road, but whatever. Here's just we have lots and lots of comments. I don't need to, and this is just a small portion of them. I don't think I need to read them all to you, but should have been done 20 years ago. We've gotten comments from parents, from grandparents, from teachers. The principals that I've talked to have been very supportive of it, and actually there's a couple of the kids, the high school students that have also signed this and left comments and said, I support this as well. So this is kind of our proposed where the sidewalk will be on Enders Road. We have most of those houses, pretty much all of those houses that have property on Enders Road, they've signed the petition. So the property owners have signed the petition where we have the sidewalks there. There are a couple outside of that, like on the other side of the road, that are not for sidewalks, or they don't want to sign because you guys didn't give them a resource officer at IC. That was one of the things I heard. Well, I'm not gonna sign that because we didn't get a resource officer. And I was like, that makes sense, I guess, whatever. So, but we don't, it's irrelevant because we have the signatures on the other side of the road. So the schools have been in support, the Penazzatis have been in support, True Value has been in support, so. And I think you talked to Mayor Warhol.
Yeah.
And he was in support for the firehouse as well. So obviously the district lines would be up for you to decide. I don't know if there's a way to include Academy Hill, because we did get a ton of support from Academy Hill, and we didn't canvass Academy Hill at all. We have a lot of people willing to canvass Academy Hill, and they've signed and they live in Academy Hill. They want to talk to their neighbors, and I said, well, that's kind of step two, because I don't know how that works with taxes, with village and town and all of that. So for now, we didn't concentrate on that, but we have a lot of support. I was very surprised that a lot of the people down in the Decoy Run area, a lot of the retired people were so, like, I thought they would be the ones that would kind of push back on it. Not at all. Not at all. They were 100% in support of it. So we were telling everybody that the town would cover 70% of it in grants that we would apply for. And then it would be capped at $50 for residents per parcel and $150 for commercial parcels for the life of the loan, which we were telling them would be 20 to 25 years. One of the big pushbacks we saw were the trees. People were very concerned about the trees. So I've been trying to talk to the highway supervisor, but he had to do research because all of those neighborhoods on Enders Road were built at different times, so all of their easements are different. So he was researching that. But we promised people that if we could avoid cutting down trees, we would avoid that because they were very, very concerned about their trees. Quite a few times we were asked about lighting, if the sidewalks could have lighting, and also a couple of people asked about garbage cans, if we could put garbage cans on there. I said, I don't know, I was. A lot of them also, and I've heard this outside of the sidewalk district project, the crosswalks, especially across from the schools. There's the one right across from Enders that literally just goes into a ditch, which is the one I use with my kids. I don't know. There's a crosswalk there, but they would like the one, especially in front of Eagle Hill, that goes kind of to Kimball Road. They'd like flashing lights there, and then there's one at Hoy Lake to Enders, like goes right across Enders to the school. They'd like flashing lights there just for the safety of the kids. And I think, again, more kids could walk from all of those neighborhoods if parents felt comfortable with them crossing the street or walking along the street. So next steps, if this is approved by you all, would be to that plan and report. Do you have any questions?
Well, so I was just looking before, it looks like 501 parcels in the proposed district.
So it's a little less, because I went through like what in the properties there are, and so if some properties weren't like vacant and they were taxed for different reasons. So it was, I have the number, 489 parcels.
And you have 339 from in the district?
We have from within the district, yes, but different, some of those are duplicates because
some people own more than one parcel.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone owns 2 parcels and they sign it, that's 2
And I
parcels.
think like the schools, we combine that into one because the school board signed the petition, but they have 2 schools on there.
and like the 2 property owners signed for one parcel, so that's where we
Yeah.
are. But we
So
have,
what I'll say that we'll do is we'll take a look at everything that's been submitted. And because really just kind of for everybody on court, for everybody public, next steps really are, we have the neighborhood sidewalk program. It's a grant program that we've used ARPA money to fund, with the understanding that we know that district creation is difficult because you need to spend money before you have a district, and you can't spend money because you don't have a district. So that's where Elaine came up with the great idea to do this. And so there is a requirement of 65% of the parcels, because what we are doing is essentially combining the 2 ways to form a district. One is residents can petition us to form a district. And that is a different process. That's not the same type of petition that they've done. The other is to do it by resolution. This is kind of a best of both worlds. The goal was to say to the public, if you can prove that you have 65% of the parcels represented that want this, that gives us the confidence to then create the district by resolution. So we'll go through, we'll make sure that we're at 65%, and then we will put this on another agenda where we will consider whether or not it has reached the bar. Yeah, exactly.
What is the percentage of
we're at 61%. We have 20 houses to get to that. So we think, so again, I just want to remind, just want to remember that we created the neighborhood sidewalk program for residents to build and show support for the town board to act. We believe that we have shown the support for Enders Road and we're ready for the next step. The next step is the map planner report. And again, this is really challenging. I wrote the program, now doing the program, you learn a whole other set of things. And a lot of it is people have questions and they want to know more details. That's the map planner report. And so I believe we've shown the support, and that district is a proposed district, it's gonna change. And so you can make it smaller and then say, oh, we got 65%, or you can make it bigger because what we've heard is people want more. People want the access on 173 so they can connect that neighborhood. Ecoview was very in support, because they wanna walk. And to walk to school, walk to the businesses. Same thing on 92, people want on 92. Now, when we looked and built the proposed district that we did build, we built it off the idea that the sidewalk would go all down Enders Road and hopefully maybe a little bit across to connect that where they're walking to, right? They're walking to the ice cream store or something. So in front of there, so that's just a little bit safer. They're walking. I know my daughter's going potentially to the
So if I could just touch on a couple of things that Elaine mentioned.
Yeah, so if I could comment, so I had a chance to hear Caitlin and Elaine speak about the project and the substantial work that has already gone in. It is a critical safety issue, and so my question is, are we held to that 65% number in order to go to the next step? Is that?
That's gonna be up to the board.
Okay, so that's our decision. Okay.
And the thing that I have found really interesting about this is like Elaine wrote the program and then Elaine just piloted the program. And like my thoughts on the matter are that this was really meant to be a test case for what the program would look like, and we started somewhere, because we gotta start somewhere. And I think that 60% is more than sufficient. The 65% is somewhat of an arbitrary number that we made up. And it was a great goal to shoot for. But I think that when we wrote the program, when Elaine wrote the program, and when we voted on it, the discussion at the time was, let's see how this works, and then we can revisit the rules. Like, that was never meant to be written in stone by any means. So I think that they've demonstrated the support from the neighborhood. I would be very comfortable with 60%. And like Elaine said, this is a district that's kind of rough around the edges. We don't know exactly which parcels will end up being included once we create the district and once we can pursue the map plan and report. Then we might find that it makes sense to include parcels that they didn't include. Like, this is not science, what they've done. Like, they've started somewhere as a community-led initiative, and it's up to us to actually build it out in the way that it should. So I am 100% favor of moving forward. I think 61% is more than sufficient, and Elaine having written it and now coming back with this feedback, I think that that's something that we should look at reducing to 60%. And like she said, it's 20 houses. I think that I am very comfortable moving forward, and I think that to consider this pilot program and to consider the rules that were written initially, it was always meant to be like, let's test this out and see how it works. So I don't think that we need to have it be so rigid. That's up to us. We made up 65.
So yeah, that was gonna be my question about where did the 65 come up, and both people said multiple times written in rules. And if you wrote it and you made it a rule, then you should like officially amend the rule, just so we're not like moving things and changing our rules. I just don't think that's a good practice, but I think if we're able to do it in a way that, you know, I don't know, I wasn't on the board, I don't know what's written, where this policy is, or this program is. It's a program, it's a town program, but, so how did you determine the 65%, and where did you
Where, like, is the 65% written into the program? Into the written program?
So I believe what we adopted does is 65%. And just as a reminder, the reason, at least my justification for why I thought 65% was a strong number, is we are going to be creating a district by resolution, which would be subject to permissive referendum. And so the goal was to have a very significant showing of support, because if there is sufficient number of people who want to challenge this, they could pass a petition to force a special election on the permissive referendum, and then we would be stuck with the cost of running that election. And then if it were to fail, that means the money that was expended for the map plan report would not be reimbursed ever from the district back into the program. So that was the justification, because by doing this kind of hybrid model of district formation, where we ask them to do a petition for support and then do it by resolution, that gives us the flexibility to work with our town engineer as they draft the map plan report, to look at extensions in different places, to look at, widening the district to include other people that support it or not. And the general intent was the board would like the assurance that we're not gonna spend the money, award the money, spend it on the map plan report, and then go through an election process that will cost more money to then end up with, it being voted down.
Well, they could still pass a petition and force a special election regardless of whether it's 65.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right,
And
and
I 60 is certainly, I mean, I would never support moving it down to 50, like,
No,
or
right.
55.
If it
That's
was,
but
if it was subject to a vote, a special election, that the entire town voting on this one district.
no,
No, it would just be the people in the district.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist. That's the catch-22.
so that's like, yeah, that's the thing, like, if the map plan report shows us who's in the district, we can keep working.
Yeah.
Right now, it's all like, we drew a shape on the map, like.
It's very esoteric right now. I think that in practice, what Elaine's identified is some inconsistencies or holes in the program, and that we like right now, it's 65% of something they made up. So they've shown community support significantly. I am in full support of moving forward to the map planner report so that we can actually see what the district will look like. It might end up looking very different than what they've demonstrated here. So it seems somewhat arbitrary to find 20 more houses to move this forward with a district that could end up looking very different and including different parts of the road. I would like to move to the next step.
Well, so next steps
I
are,
have two comments. One, I think just as important of the support that you've demonstrated has been the minimal opposition or the nature of the opposition, which I think is very different from some other circumstances that we've experienced. So I think by having the people that you've talked to who have chosen not to sign, the reasons they are choosing not to sign are varied. It's not so much that you have this groundswell of people who are in this other section of town or other reason why they don't want to do this. So I think from my sense, you've proven not only the positive, but also the lack of negative that is also relevant in this circumstance. The other thing I would like to say in terms of the sidewalk program is that the way we're paying for this is through a fund of money that will end.
That is precisely.
And I think we need to move on it now,
Yes.
because we have the money now, we can do it, we can prove the efficacy or not of the program, and the money to actually build the thing only comes around once in a while. So if we're not ready, we're gonna miss our chance and wait 2 more years. So I would like to move forward so that we're ready to go when the funding for actual construction is available.
I'm also in agreement with Caitlin and Sarah that moving forward makes sense. I did take some time to review the comments in the spreadsheet, and they're not neutral. They're very passionate and, really looking for us to take action. There's a sense of urgency there, so.
so what we would be doing then is we would be engaging our engineer to, I probably set up a meeting to discuss some of the findings with you guys, with the engineer, so we can understand where are you seeing additional support, where, you know, and reasonably too, like Eagle View, if Eagle View could be included for a very small portion of that affects the costs.
It would resolve the question, I mean, are you confident you can get to 65% within a reasonable
Yes.
period of time? So
Yes,
we need to be
it's-
tweaking this resolution.
But that's what I was
65%
wondering.
of what?
Well,
Well, you
yeah, so
say
that's
they-
what I'd like to see
The
the
town board
district.
requires at least 65%, so do like, my question is, we need a resolution to
Well, so
suspend that
My,
or?
my ask would be that we can set up meetings with our town engineer, we can start looking at what the cost will be. Because that's the other thing too, is we have a $60,000 set aside for this program, after working with the engineer, if because of the extensive nature of the district and possibly, we don't know what the cost is gonna be, we have a rough estimate. So if we were to meet with the town engineer, draft up a proposal for them to draft up a map plan report that includes a full.
Assuming you're going to get where you're trying to get to.
Yeah,
And our last slide too says, you can still sign our petition, it's still up there, we will continue to collect
Yeah.
people's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the signatures.
we're having this.
I mean, I would, like, of the 300 and something signatures that we have that's in the current proposed sidewalk district, I can literally point out like the 5 or 6 houses that said no. So if I thought that there was some very strong opposition to this, I would tell you that there really isn't. I mean, it's of the 400 and something houses, there are like 6 or 7 of them that have said no, and one of them was actually on the town board before, and I had a very nice conversation with her, and she was just like, I just don't wanna sign right now, and I was like, okay, that's fine.
So my understanding then is, so there's everyone that signed, a few people that said, no, I don't wanna sign, and then a very large chunk of you haven't been able to communicate.
That we haven't, and
Yeah.
like, half of Decoy Run is in Florida.
Yeah.
Or somewhere south right now, so like,
So I think,
Yeah.
generally, understanding that the board is interested in moving this forward, we can set up a time to meet with the engineer. We can work on getting a proposal that we would have to then approve, and we'll have to, have a conversation about exactly how we approve spending the money, if
And I
it's.
think we could look at modifying this if Councilor Nestor would feel more comfortable if that was.
No, it's not holding me back. I just wanted, I didn't know if we need to propose something in order to do that to go forward. I want it to go forward. I want it to be successful. I don't want to be called out as a counselor or a board for ignoring our own rules, so that's.
Yeah, so we can look
Elaine
at,
has-
So I have some thoughts on that, because like, again, we're going through it, and so I do think it makes sense to go through it and then go back to the program and then edit and change it versus doing
I
it
think
here and there.
the important part is after we talk with the town engineer, and maybe we get a little better sense of what the district could look like. We might find that we do at 65%, we might find that we're well over 65%. I think what we have said though is that in general, we think there's a lot of support, so at this point, we're not spending money, we're just spending some time, so we can move forward, engage with the engineer, have them draft a proposal for us, and that whether or not we approve that proposal is going to essentially be whether or not this program is awarded. So that's what our next step.
So we'll talk to the engineer and then they'll give us a quote to do the map.
Which would then be another vote here.
Yeah.
Yes,
That would be
and-
the vote, that would be the vote you take.
And would that, so would the, in their proposal, would we know what the district looked like, or would that come with
That'll
that
be,
letter?
that'll be a conversation we have.
So we don't know what percent we have because they have to determine what the district actually is that what you're saying?
We have to determine.
The town board
Okay,
does.
We have to work with the
So let's
engineers.
just,
And we have a lot of signatures that are outside of the district, and we have data to work off of. We have comments, so we can make informed decisions as to whether we include additional areas, or maybe pull back in certain areas, not very likely, but we have the ability to look at all that data and make a determination. And the specific 65% number, we can have a conversation about whether we change that and then approve it, or
so what part of the process is that? Is it the map plan report?
yes, in trying to.
It's like a very chicken and egg situation.
Which was the challenge element.
Yeah.
Like,
I just want to understand where we are.
No.
We're like all over.
So I,
If are we going to map plan report, is that a conversation with the engineer that we're talking
no,
about?
they're
Yes.
not, well,
Okay.
they're not,
All right,
A proposal to draft the map plan.
yeah, we're gonna talk to
it's a
them
draft, the
about,
engineer.
so that they can get us a proposal, and that proposal will include a quote for how much money it's gonna cost. And then we'll vote on whether or not.
And at the end of the day, we are passing, so we are gonna commission a map plan report using these funds. And then we are going to adopt a resolution that defines the district. So we, the town board,
I
have.
want you to define the district, that the amount of signatures will be.
No,
determined if they do
so
65.
it just,
We don't need any signatures,
Yeah.
we can just do it.
yeah, you don't need.
There's no legal requirement outside of the own rules we set.
So I can just, if you would allow me like 45 seconds, I think I can explain this to you. So the reason why they've gotten these signatures is because we want them to, not because it's required. So there's at no point in this entire process and we could have just created the district that we felt like creating. But in the past, when the town board tried to pursue sidewalk project development on their own, and we're just like, we're gonna put a sidewalk there, people like stormed the castle, they came with their lawyers and they were like, we don't want this. So we wanted it to go the other direction, we wanted the community to come to the town board with demonstrated support that they want this, so that, as John said, we're not then spending money to do a map plan and report, to study and create a district, just to have it defeated in a special election when people didn't want it. So this whole process was what Elaine made. She made a whole program that included getting petition signatures to show us. That's why that 65% is some arbitrary, like you just came up with it. And so the reason we did that was so that we knew they really wanted it. So to Sarah's point, if they had come and like they were having conversations with person after person after person that said, we don't want this because of this one very specific reason, like FM Road, people were opposed to it handily because of the rock walls there. They did the historical rock walls. That was the justification at the time. And of course, it goes all the way up and down FM Road. So if there was a concerted opposition with one focused reason, then, and they only got 55%, then we could say it's just not enough for us to feel like it's, like we don't have to really see overwhelming support so that we're not wasting anyone's time or money. So that 65% of these signatures, we're never required to do this. So we're not gonna make them go get 65% of the district we end up creating because it's not necessary. They've already proved or proven that there's support.
So are you ready? We're hoping to meet then?
Yeah.
Okay. With the meeting, where.
Yes, I'm very, yes,
Okay.
the meeting with the engineer is where we wanna go.
That's the next step.
So John, you'll contact us?
Yeah, we'll coordinate, we have our engineering meeting next week, so we'll talk with them then, we'll try to find a couple times that make sense.
Okay.
We'll let you guys know, we'll coordinate something, and then, we have all the data, everything we sent over, so we'll send that to them, just take a look, and we'll make sure that we're prepared to have a really educated discussion.
Monica, do you have a day job, or does it have to be an evening meeting, or can you?
I own my own business.
Okay.
She do whatever she wants. And I agree with it in that meeting, since the sidewalk program is under the purview of sustainable management.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on the work again.
Yes. Knocking on doors is fun for some of us, I quite enjoy it.
Yes, yes, it was. I just brought my kids and they were like, I wanna go home now. I need help.
Been there,
And
done
more
that.
houses.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so, did anyone want to talk about personal freedom? Is that okay?
I thought Sarah was.
The private library, next item.
Oh. So I just, did we get the others?
Yeah, so the plan,
I think we should talk about it.
yeah,
I don't know.
we're, and, it'll be on Facebook and everything, we'll put it out, but just wanted to kind of bring it up that, we will be doing a pride flag raising celebration, here at Town Hall on, what's currently planned to be May 31st at about 4 p.m. We've got some honorees that are coming, we have moved these to later in the day to hopefully, school-age kids are able to join us if they're interested, but wanted to put that on everyone's radar.
So when is
Good
it?
idea.
It'll be May 31st, at 4 p.m., and that's the currently plan. We're preparing a graphic and everything as the day goes on, so. Okay, Councilor Taliano, you wanna walk us through the tree inventory contract approval?
Sure. So this is going to be paid for with a grant that it's a reimbursable grant that will be coming through sometime soon. I heard there's been some movement at the DEC with signing of these. This is with Davy to do a tree inventory in the town, only in the right of ways. And this is just to reserve our spot with Davy before they get booked up and we end up missing out with them. So we're not going to be bound to actually start paying them until we receive the grant funding. This is just to reserve our spot with them for when we do receive the grant funding and we don't lose out on having them. Any questions on it?
They seem very qualified.
Yes.
You answered my first question right away. I remember because this proposal came about almost a year ago. And I vaguely remember Councilor Waters explaining that grant funding was available for it. And I remember writing for it and I remember receiving approval and then several months went by and I needed you to verify that. So thank you.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's the Fayetteville Tree Commission is working with Davy on a similar agreement. So we did confirm that, what our request was for everything that's in the town's right of way, but doesn't include the villages. Although if Fayetteville is already looking at partnering with Davy to do their tree inventory, we are somewhat hopeful that there might be some
Schedules.
Exactly, a little bit of ability to coordinate. And then two, the understanding that, as we roll out our GIS program, we would be letting Fayetteville know if they'd like to send that data over, it can be part of that whole system. Any other questions?
Okay, so with that, I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the services agreement with Davy Resource Group, Inc.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So next up, we have a set date for a public hearing for zone change. This is for 7155 Taylor Road in East Syracuse. This is kind of an anomaly of a parcel.
Yes, it is.
And, so I don't expect there's gonna be a lot of issues with this zone change to bring it into much more reasonable zoning with the rest of the neighborhood. But we've got that out, we've got the information out there, the application and the map. And so I would just look for a motion to set the date.
So I would make a motion to set the date for a public hearing regarding the proposed zoning change for the property at 7155 Taylor Road, East Syracuse, New York 13057, on June 12th at 6:35 p.m.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we do have application again from the 7 Pines Development for a parcel that we previously removed from their application. They have submitted another application, and I know they had met with a number of the councilors to talk through some of the issues of the last zone change application, some of the issues just in general with the project. And so we are expecting them to come in. We've seen the application. They'll do a brief presentation on we're setting this for the 12th. And then discussion and obviously continue to hear from the neighbors and working with them. So I would just look for a motion to set the date for that public hearing.
So I'll make a motion to set a date for a public hearing regarding the proposed zoning change for 7 Pines on June 12th, 2024, around 6:35 p.m.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So see you again.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun meeting then.
Skyridge.
Well,
We have a number of public hearings, so.
So the Skyridge Water District, if you may recall, last summer, we added the Clear Path for Veterans parcel to that water district. Since then, they are not participating in the revisions to this water district, and so we need to take them out. So I'd like to make a motion to set a date for a public hearing regarding the Skyridge Water District petition for dissolution of Extension 1 on June 26, 2024 at 6:35 p.m.
are all these at 6:35 p.m.?
Yeah, they're all scheduled to 5 and then they have.
Okay.
So just, if I can just clarify, we do need to adopt the order too, and there was an order that was uploaded. So the order essentially sets the date for the public hearing, the time for the public hearing as well. We do need to just add that to the resolution.
All right, so the resolution will read to set the date for the public hearing and adopt the order as presented by legal. Wasn't the date you said? It's 29, it's 26, because we were trying not to do that all in one first.
So all those in favor? Okay. Opposed?
Oh, this is me too, okay. So, we have an exciting opportunity to put telephone poles on Gulf Road, which the highway superintendent has already reviewed and has accepted. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor and highway superintendent to sign the Manlius Highway permit to install utility poles along Gulf Road.
Why is this exciting?
So,
Have you been on Gulf Road?
this is part of the Allegheny County broadband project. I don't remember exactly if it was an award or just a program, but this is, the goal is to provide broadband for places that don't have broadband.
Cool, that is exciting.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty exciting.
Especially for people who don't have broadband. I'll second
They're definitely not joining us in our meetings.
That might be very janky. I seconded the motion.
She did it, I did a motion, she did a second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Abstain? Okay, motion carries. Okay, next up, we have the Toshiba lease renewal. So this has been a pretty good cost saving measure. It monitors the toner usage throughout all the different printers. So it pretty much lets us know when they gotta get ordered. And we do see, I think, we started this last year or the year before?
No, this is for the two big copiers.
Oh,
That's how-
yeah.
Yep, the large copiers.
Thank you, Kay, for listing all those details out in the email that was helpful.
Yep, so the one upstairs, downstairs, they're just up for renewal, we're getting one of these. We're gonna get 2 new models, new machines, excuse me, the new models of the existing machines that we have.
And we're gonna save money.
We are, yep, our maintenance is.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the lease with maintenance renewal agreement with Toshiba. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I was me first.
So who's seconded?
We'll say Alyssa seconded. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have our workers' compensation renewal.
Want to say something?
Sure. We're currently with Burma. We've actually been with Burma for 25 years this year. And as normal, we go out to different vendors for quotes. So we did go out with Compliance and Burma. You have the rates here. Burma did give us a 2-year option. Compliance did, but it's the same for both years. Here, Brian Kuhn, who is our agent, has reviewed this. They recommend that we elect the Burma 2-year option. I would also recommend that. I mean, we've had great success with Burma. I would like to thank all of our departments because the town's EMF, our modification factor, we are below standard, which is 1%. We are at 0.85, which means we have a great team of employees who are trying to keep us safe, and so that's great. But again, I don't know if anybody has any questions about the program. I know, some of the board members.
I just want to say that I am super impressed with the experience modification that we have. It's great. And looking through the quote and everything, PERMA is amazing with their early renewal credit and their pricing and everything too. So, and great job with getting the 2 quotes in there for it. Really great job. Super impressed, like you just said, with the departments and keeping it down. Being below average of the other standard companies like ours.
And also the 2-year option is a pretty big cost savings.
Yeah.
Over both 2 years, so, I think we have a motion prepared, so we'll just probably want to amend that to approve the workers' compensation policy, for the 2-year option. So.
So Alyssa, do you want to make that motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign or to motion to approve workers' compensation policy dated 6/1/2024 through 6/1/2025 with PERMA, as well as for 6/1/2025 to 6/1/2026 with PERMA. Does that cover it?
I think that covers us.
Okay.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So I did want to bring up the new furniture question.
Yeah.
So we got a quote for new furniture for this arrangement. And some people felt that we could do better. than the state contract. I think the issue is quality, so you can definitely get chairs cheaper, but what nature of furniture do we want to have and how
We don't have cheap and staples.
Yeah,
So-
like that's the chair that I had that I needed for like an accommodation, but I got cheap. I didn't, you know, it's an Amazon chair. It was less than $100, right, Kay?
that one's money.
Yeah, it won't last long. I've had millions of them. Yeah.
So the question is, what is people's wish for what we get for quotes in terms of, do you want to have a budget guideline and say we need to stay under some figure? How do people want us to proceed rather than?
It's definitely not environmentally sustainable to have like consistent churning of furniture.
However, we could have furniture that lasts forever.
Yes, which is also frowned upon, because these chairs are miserably uncomfortable. So we could stand to, I think, so what is the furniture for?
The furniture is for this you.
And it's chairs?
Right?
We
There's
could-
40 chairs.
There's 40 chairs for there, if we choose to do it. There's 12 chairs for here, and then new tables. That are more flexible, that fold up to get out of the way.
So you can change the configuration. Tables that match would be nice.
I would favor quality, especially like we don't want to have to be replacing the town board furniture year in and year out. And that company is a fantastic company. It's got a great reputation, so.
They do the rest of it.
Yeah, and I would trust that they're giving us, exactly what we need.
The quality is very good, so I have a nonprofit that I run during the day, and we were able to piggyback on the Madison County contract to get furniture, virtually exactly the furniture you selected out for our conference room and our chairs, and it's really pretty good quality, and obviously we scrape and pinch every penny until it's 2 pennies, so it's not like, yes, we could shop around and find something much poorer quality, but essentially, I think it's smart to go with it, so we.
We'll save money over time versus having to replace and repair things that keep breaking, or, and it's, yeah.
The room gets
Right,
used
you
for a
don't-
lot of
you don't want
things, and they're very easy to
And
rearrange.
it would be used more if it was more amenable.
Yeah, you could easily move the tables and everything.
What are we gonna do with this furniture? I mean, we just got this table.
This was second hand.
Yes, I know, we got it for free, right, from,
Yes.
yeah, from.
Sarah, one thing I didn't ask about with that quote was, did the delivery fee include assembly as well, or was assembly gonna have to be done by our staff?
Okay, so you can answer that question, it does include assembly.
It includes assembly, yeah.
That's what he does.
Staples is not gonna assemble all that, you know.
It's not, yeah, we're like some Kay sitting in here with Ann. Coming on a Saturday.
So I think, I think we should probably maybe have a little bit more conversation about exact numbers and things like that. But we'll look to include the quotes that we have for,
So are people okay with that, or should I go back to him and ask for something different? Because we can get less expensive chairs, they just won't be as ergonomic as the ones that
I
are.
want ergonomic.
We need.
Yeah, I think
But I sent a link for chairs that were cheaper, and that was an ergo mesh chair, so it was an ergonomic chair. And it was cheaper, and I think it would have ended up saving around $500 just for the 6 or 7 chairs for the board to sit in. So it was a next level up of type of a chair than what you had been quoted for, Sarah.
I got that, all right, so with your permission, we will explore the option that was
yeah, look at some other options, but then what we'll try to do is we'll have a couple proposals to consider at the next meeting.
Great.
sounds good.
Do we have a timeline, like if we voted in the next meeting, when we get the furniture?
I think they pretty much have them.
Like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Crazy.
I emailed them last week, I was trying to get them to buy the office furniture I have in my downtown office, and they were like, Gil, we don't buy modern, solid teak furniture. That's not what we do.
Okay, so we will see that on the next agenda. Anything else on that?
Very exciting, Sarah, thank you for exploring that.
Next up, approval of the May 8th minutes.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of May 8th as amended, which I mentioned to some of you, but not all of you, so I did just make a couple of changes in the draft that was sent out.
Great. I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 10 in the amount of $315,516,000 and 14 cents.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And with that, we do have a couple of items to go into executive session for, so I look for a motion for both discussing the real estate purchase and multiple employee matters.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
I always want to make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
You're gonna love June 12th.
All those public hearings, I was like, bro.
Caitlin has spoken, she's gonna do all the motions in public hearings. The opening and closing and all.
The only reason I don't do this, because like, it gets a little confusing with waiving the reading of the public notice.
And then open the hearing. And there's
I'd like to make a motion as to be available at all two meetings.
Things normally die down in the summer, I guess we're trying to happen.
Okay, we are out of executive session, following some conversations. We do have, some motions, so I would look for anybody that is to make those motions.
I'd like to make a motion to set the salary for town clerk for Belding effective 5/26/2024 at $60,000 per year.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Caitlin, was that you that second that?
No,
Sarah,
sorry. Any other motions? Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to set a date for a public hearing regarding the purchase agreement with Twin Shores Property LLC for the parcels located 5424 and 5430 Burdix Street North in the town of Manlius, County of Onondaga, on June, we said, decided 26th. 2024 at 6:35 p.m. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I will say too, following this, that meeting is 5 weeks out. So we'll get the purchase agreement and all the other supporting documents up on the website so that people have plenty of time to take a look at those.
That's great, John. Thanks. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to engage bond counsel up to $5,000 for the purposes of drafting a bond resolution relating to the purchase of land for a new municipal building.
Okay. All those in favor?
I'm abstaining.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
2 abstains. Okay, motion carries. Okay, any other business that we'd like to discuss before we close the meeting?
Definitely make. So any business? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn and say happy birthday, Mom.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Don't tell me your mother watches all of these.
Motion carries. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
So Carrie, can you